Rob Cooper, First News, Prince Rupert.
Rand Assad, First News, at the Deep Creek Hatchery.
For CFTK-TV News in Terrace, I'm Tyler Noble.
For Health Watch, I'm Kathy Brookes.
For CFTK-TV News, I'm Sarah Consmo in Prince Rupert.
For CFTK-TV News, I'm Artie Cole in Terrace.
For CFTK-TV News in Smithers, I'm Sarah Comedina.
I'm Mike Kelly reporting. Now let's send it back to the studio.
Hi, I'm Kathy Brookes, and welcome to Flashback, where we take a look at stories from years gone by. Well, today we go back to October of 1990, when many Northwest skiers were watching the first snowflakes of the season fall with extra anticipation. That's because the developers of Shames Mountain were working hard to be ready to open the new hill for the first time. I had the pleasure of following the project's development and reporting on it for Skeena Journal. They say snow won't be a problem on Shames Mountain. The peak was picked because it gets a lot of the white stuff every winter. Snow was an important factor because Terrace's last ski hill often failed to get enough. The Kitimat-Stikine Regional District's Kitsim-Kalem ski hill operated about 10 years. But during some of those seasons, it didn't get enough snow to open at all, and other years, it didn't open for long. The regional district finally got out of the ski hill business, and a private corporation is now putting together the Shames project. It plans to welcome the first skiers December 15th. That date isn't too far away now, and after 2.5 years of work, the Shames Mountain Ski Corporation is rushing to make final preparations. Road access has been one of the biggest challenges in opening up Shames Mountain. The provincial government is building the road at a cost of more than $2 million. The road leaves Highway 16 20 kilometers west of Terrace, and the first few kilometers wind gently through the valley. Farther along, however, construction has been more difficult. Blasting away rock along the top 4 kilometers has been the toughest job, and the Shames Corporation has been waiting anxiously for crews to finish the last switchback. Moving the ski facility's main building onto the mountain has depended on the road being wide enough. The move has now been scheduled for this week.
Step one, I guess, was to dismantle the lodge itself, all the infrastructure, all the electrical works, the plumbing works first. The building mover will come in and physically cut the building right down the middle. He'll then separate it and lift it onto his trucks with hydraulic jacks. And before he moves it down, he'll brace the entire structure and sheet it in so it just doesn't twist on the way up. It's a matter of moving it down the Kitsim-Kalem Road, dropping all the power lines, telephone lines, cable lines. There's about 7 or 8 sets of lines that have to come down, move it down the highway, up the Shames Road here, and then a matter of putting it onto a pre-built foundation.
Workers began preparing that foundation late last month. At the same time, work on the lifts was being completed. The Shames Mountain Corporation bought the old lifts from the Kitsim-Kalem ski hill and is using part of that equipment on Shames.
As far as the chair goes, the only thing we use from Kitsim-Kalem are the towers and the shiv assemblies along with the return station. The whole drive assembly is new haul rope, all new chairs, all new controls, and we did manage to salvage the lift huts off there. The T-bar is basically the same as it was on Kitsim-Kalem. We've added a couple towers to that and lengthened it, a couple more hangers, but basically it's the same equipment.
The lifts have cost about $1.2 million in total, and Grabowski says buying the Kitsim-Kalem equipment was a good move.
These lifts now will run as new. And the value on these lifts now, if you replace them with new material, would probably be up around $2.5 million. So it was a good investment to rebuild the old stuff and marriage it with the new.
Carl Ernst of Mueller Lifts in Vernon has been supervising the lift construction. He says the Shames job has posed some unusual challenges.
One thing is, always when you're remote, some of the other lifts that we're building, there's facilities in place, like a base lodge and all this. On this particular one, we were sort of out in the bush most of the time, and it makes it difficult for certain type of work that has to be done.
Grabowski's role has been overseeing construction of the whole Shames project. He's worked on building other ski hills, including the Olympic runs near Calgary. His job at Shames actually began in the spring, with flagging the trails, then clearing the 11 runs and the lift lines.
Well, it took about 6 weeks of flagging the trails, which were taken basically right off the master plan. About 36 hectares of cleared trails and another 15 hectares of naturally gladed tree skiing that we can open up with time. It only took about 3 weeks to fall the trees, and it's taken basically the rest of the summer to try and clean it up, take off the salvageable timber and the non-salvageable.
And that's pretty much done now?
It is pretty much done. They'll have to come back next year. The corporation will have to come back and do a bit of additional cleanup and some revegetation work. But everything's cross-stitched and protected for this year, so they shouldn't have any troubles in the spring.
Grabowski won't be around next spring. His job is finished once Shames is up and operating. A general manager has already been at work getting ready for that day. Of course, he won't be alone on the hill.
We're looking in full operation to have approximately 50 to 60 staff. That's including our ski school and our patrol. And in our quieter days during midweek, we'll probably have about 25 staff that will be here on a full-time basis for the full season.
Both professionals and volunteers will patrol the slopes.
Our first task is we will have a pro patrol, and there will be 2 to 3 paid professional ski patrols that will be taking care of safety on the hill, fixing minor accidents, anything that has to do with first aid and safety on the hill. There will also be a volunteer ski patrol that will basically be here on weekends and holidays when we're at peak operating. When we have a large number of people here, they will be handling everything else that happens on the hill.
Staff will also be hired to operate the lifts, ticket office, cafeteria and bar, and the rental shop.
Our rental equipment and our rental shop, there'll be a completely new setup in there. We will be rebuilding the interior of our rental shop and the flow pattern, as well as we've purchased approximately 300 new units of rental equipment, including boots and bindings and skis and poles. So our customers will have the top-notch and high-technology rental equipment to ski on for the next couple years.
Shames is planning programs on the hill for school groups to develop new skiers and help fill up the weekdays. Siemens already expects the weekends will be crowded.
We're expecting and hoping that on the weekends and on our peak days, it'll be crowded. There'll be a large number of people here, and we're hoping to handle them as best as we can. Obviously, we're going to promote people to come and try our midweek skiing because there won't be quite as many people. They're going to get a better experience. But on the weekends, you know, that's the standard time for people to ski, and they'll still be great skiing. But if you don't like people at all in your way when you're skiing, we want to try midweek as well.
So where will all these skiers come from? One answer is obvious.
Well, primarily Terrace, Kitimat, and Rupert, because it's a day skiing market for Terrace, Kitimat, and Rupert, and that's about 60,000 population base there. Demographically very good as far as the right age and the right income and that to be skiers. You know, it's a pretty young population up here, and you know, and fairly well off. So, from a demographic point of view, it's a good skier mix. But we have another group of 65,000 in that southeastern Alaska market, which we think is a very viable market for us. And we've done some marketing up there, and we have had very, very good interest, especially out of Ketchikan and Wrangell, and we think that there's a tremendous market there for us.
Many of the people who challenged the runs on Shames this year are also people who would ski in Smithers. There's been some concern that Smithers Ski Hill will suffer when Shames opens. However, Shames officials don't see it that way. They say developing new skiers in the Terrace area will help Smithers too.
Without a facility here developing new skiers to feed their market, eventually they would be in trouble. So I think in the long run, and I think they realize that in the long run, this is going to be a very good thing for them. You know, I'm not going to buy ski equipment to go over to Smithers to ski for a couple of weekends. But if I'm skiing here all the time, I'm going to want to change, and I'll end up going over to Smithers to ski. And I think that's a natural thing.
Martin says package deals, including both Shames and Smithers, may also help attract Southeast Alaskans. Shames officials are anxious about getting their hill ready on time, but after 2.5 years of struggling, they're also very excited and perhaps relieved they'll finally welcome skiers to the mountain. Raising the more than $2 million to build the facility has been a major task. The corporation is still seeking more investors, and recently the corporation secured a tourism development loan. However, it had to restructure its $300,000 debt to the Kitimat-Stikine Regional District first. The federal and provincial governments required that they be first for repayment of their loan, so the regional district has agreed to become second on the list for repayment for the old Kitsim-Kalem equipment.
The regional district has quite generously and quite wisely on their part too, I think, renegotiated this over a period of 15 years. And the day that the lift opens, we start paying interest on that. The interest starts accruing. We have 2 years interest-free, then we pay interest for 3 years, and then over the following 10-year period we pay the interest and principal off, and it'll be done after, I think at 2005, the loan will be repaid.
An earlier plan to turn the debt into shares for the regional district was rejected by the provincial government. Municipal Affairs noted taxpayers had clearly voted in 1986 to get out of the ski hill business. The corporation actually has 4 phases mapped out for development on Shames Mountain. What skiers will see this year is just Phase 1. They may be pushing for Phase 2 sooner than originally thought.
We're afraid we're going to have to be looking at that a lot more quickly than we anticipated, because we think we're going to be pushed for capacity up there. But the second phase is another lift out of the base area, basically serving the same terrain but with another 3 or 4 runs in there. We're looking at probably a triple chair into that area, and what it does is give us two accesses out of that base area, so there's no risk of downtime and that kind of thing, and access is some higher end terrain as well. So I would think probably in a couple of years we're going to have to look at doing that.
Phase 3 would eventually see development farther down the hill, almost doubling the vertical skiable terrain. And Phase 4 would access a bowl behind the present hill. Even Phase 1 will be a boost to Terrace's economy if all goes as planned. A study has shown Ski Smithers helps pump millions of dollars into Smithers' economy. And Shames officials hope, along with providing a lot of fun, their facility will help diversify the economy of Terrace.